And we'll be doing an hour or so, quarter maybe, this evening, yes. And basically, and be wonderful and interesting and educational. So, great. So first of all, repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So devotees, this seminar is, well, today at least, well, rather than seminar, but Prabhupada Lilamrita as such, is 6 volumes. I imagine you've seen, perhaps a number of you have the full set, or, you know, the one very big volume like that. So it's 6 volumes. Yeah. And today, well, let us put it this way. We are going to try our best, with the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, let's see how it goes, but we will try our best to, like I said, in an abbreviated way, go through the entire Lilamrita. We will see how it goes. And we'll see how it goes this evening. This will give us some idea of, you know, if we're going to be able to go through the whole thing before Sunday evening. We'll see. But if we cannot, because we don't want to, you know, rush through particularly important events, we don't want to rush through. So it may be, devotees, the possibility exists that this may be part 1, what we're doing these 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Sunday. It may end up being part 1. Let's just see how it goes. Or maybe we'll get through the whole thing. But anyway, today we're going to try to go through, at least what I was told to try to do, is the whole of the first volume, which is from Srila Prabhupada's appearance in this world to his leaving for America and all the different things that happened. In fact, well, there are actually 11 chapters in this volume. Let me just tell you what they are, just so we know what we're going to be going through. First of all is his childhood, his birth, his childhood. And so many interesting things happened then. Then the second chapter is college, marriage, and Gandhi's movement. So means from, I don't know about his late teens, but maybe very early 20s, around that time, through to, well, through several years, up until he almost up until his meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Then the third chapter is titled, A Very Nice Saintly Person. This is about Srila Prabhupada's meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then chapter 4 is titled, How Shall I Serve You? And it's about their relationship. The third chapter is just about their meeting, basically. But then this is now going to be chapter 4, How Shall I Serve You? About their relationship, how it developed and like that. Then the fifth chapter is called The War. And devotees, this does not mean the First World War, the Second World War or the First World War. But it doesn't mean the Second World War. It means what happened to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's institution, the Gaudiya Math, just more or less immediately after he left this world. There was basically a war within the organization, and it all sort of splintered up and divided up, and it was not nice at all. So then chapter 6 is called An Unknown Friend. And this is to do with Srila Prabhupada writing to Mahatma Gandhi just before Gandhi was killed. And actually in the letter, Prabhupada warns him that if you don't change your ways, then something like that may happen to you. So Prabhupada wrote to him in his capacity as an unknown friend. Then the seventh chapter is called Jhansi, the League of Devotees. And Prabhupada, from the time that he was connected with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was so keen to preach, so keen, it's amazing. And it affected his household life pretty drastically. And gradually he came to the point where he had resolved to give up his household life and really just get full-time into Krishna consciousness. And the place where he decided that was this Jhansi. It's a city in, is it Uttar Pradesh? Yeah, Uttar Pradesh. In sort of north-central India, something like that. And then he formed what was the forerunner to ISKCON, which he called the League of Devotees. But that didn't work out. And then we come to chapter 8, which is called New Delhi, Crying in the Wilderness. And this is after Jhansi didn't work out. Then Prabhupada tried to live in the ashrams of two of his godbrothers, but that didn't work out, and they basically asked him if he wouldn't mind, please go. And he ended up on his own in Delhi. Yeah, basically homeless. Then chapter 9 is a resident of Vrindavan. He's then based himself in Vrindavan, but he would come to Delhi regularly for printing and distributing back to Godhead. Then chapter 10, this momentous hour of need, that the great need for spreading Krishna consciousness. And then the 11th chapter, last chapter in this volume, the dream comes true. He gets a free ticket on a ship to New York. Yeah, and so he goes off. That was his dream, to go to America to preach. Right, let's begin. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vajayane, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasticha Deshatane, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyas Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Prabhupada. Yes, so, first chapter, childhood. Srila Prabhupada appeared in this world on the Nandotsava day, the day of the festival of Nanda Maharaj, the day after Janmashtami, 1896, or September the 1st, 1896, in Calcutta, in a part of Calcutta called Tollygunge. And as it happens, devotees, very interesting and important point is that ISKCON has just quite recently acquired that property, the birthplace of Srila Prabhupada, and we visited it, what was it, back in November, I think. We visited it and they're really fixing it up. And it's just great. It's really great. So he appeared there, and on that day, and prior to really being like officially named, his uncle named him Nandulal, because it was the Nandotsava day of Nanda Maharaj. He appeared at Nandulal, means the dear child of Nanda Maharaj. But his parents, Gormohan Dey and his wife Rajani, they named him Abhaycharan, one who is fearless, having taken shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Yes, right. So he took birth basically there, but then a few days later, or maybe a couple of weeks later actually, returned to his parents' home, which was not far from there, 151 Harrison Road. So as was and is even to this day the custom, an astrologer did a horoscope, and he said, when this child reaches the age of 70, he will cross the ocean, become a great exponent of religion, and open 108 temples. And interestingly enough, exactly that happened. By the time well, obviously we all know Prabhupada in 1965 at the age of 70. Yeah, and by the time he left this world, 1977, 14th of November, he had 108 temples. So his parents, his family, Gormohan Dey was a cloth merchant, and he had one of these, I think, well, all of us have been to India at least, probably. We've all been. Then you know what these little shops are like. It was a really small shop. But he was related, so he was not wealthy, but he was related to a very wealthy family called the Maliks. Malik, actually, the name was given to the family by the Muslim rulers as a sign of respect. And across the road from the house was a Radha Govinda temple of the Maliks. Yes. And Prabhupada went every day. This is what Prabhupada says. I used to ride on the same pram with Siddheshwar Malik. He used to call me Moti, which means pearl, and his nickname was Subidhi. And the servant pushed us together. If one day this friend did not see me, he would become mad. He would not go in the pram without me. We would not separate even for a moment. So Prabhupada makes the point in Lilamrita that even as a child he would go himself over to the temple, because it was just across the road more or less. And Prabhupada said he would stand for hours looking at Radha Govinda and recite prayers to them. Obviously he must have been a bit older, somewhat older then, but it was still during his childhood. So when, interesting and sure, quite an event, when he was 1.5, he got typhoid, and the very modern doctor, very up-to-date doctor, said, oh yes, if he doesn't take, he needs to take chicken broth soup, otherwise he may die. And Gopalhande said, well, we can't. We can't. Nobody in our family has taken anything like that for generations. And he hasn't, and he's not going to. And the doctor said, well, then he'll die. So Gopalhande was sort of, and in this naive way, he was pressured into saying, oh, all right then, if that's the only thing that can save his life. So the doctor Gopalhande said, we cannot make it in our kitchen, because we've never made anything like that. Doctor said, ever helpful, don't worry, I'll make it at home and bring it. And he brought it, and they gave Prabhupada one mouthful, and he just vomited and spat it out and just vomited. And Gopalhande threw the chicken broth away. When Prabhupada was 3, he was playing with matches, and his dhoti caught fire. But some man appeared out of nowhere and put it out. But Prabhupada retained a scar on one of his legs for the rest of his life from that wound of being burnt. Gopalhande, as we said, he was a cloth merchant with a little shop, and when he would come home at night, he would come home about 10 o'clock at night, and he would put a bowl of rice down in the middle of the floor of the shop for the rats, so that they wouldn't chew the cloth. Yeah, because, well, I can just tell you, we were in Calcutta, I guess, Calcutta. And we had a whole lot of mridangas, like 6 or 8 mridangas, which we were going to take back to London. But we were going to Jagannath Puri, 79 actually. Anyway, around that time. We're going to Jagannath Puri in the meantime, then we're going to come back and then take them. So we didn't want to have to cart them to Puri, so we put them in the left luggage facility at, I think, Howrah train station. We came back, the leather straps on all of them had been eaten. So that was the end of the mridangas. So Gopalhande, his strategy was, if you can't beat them, join them. he fed them rice, prasadam, which was more attractive than eating the cloth. So in this way, the cloth was not damaged. So he would come home and read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, chant japa. They had Radha Krishna deities at home. He would worship them. And Prabhupada said that his father was very gentle and affectionate. He never punished him. When he had to correct him, he would say, and he never used violence, but when he had to correct him, he would say, "You're my son, so now I must correct you. It's my duty." Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father would chastise him. So please don't mind. And then he'd chastise him. Prabhupada said Gomohan would get up at 7 or 8, take bath, and go out purchasing. At 10 a.m. he would come back and do puja at home. After lunch he would go to the shop, and he would come home at 10 p.m. and do puja. So in other words, he'd take rest pretty late. So Prabhupada said, actually my father's real business was puja. So he wanted Vaishnav goals for Abai. He wanted him to become a preacher and a servant of Radharani. And indeed, he had a practice that every day, because he would only go to the shop after lunch, so he was there every day for lunch. And every day when lunch was ready, he would go out on the street every day and call out in a loud voice, "Are there any hungry people around? Any hungry people around?" And Prabhupada said there was never a day when he was living with his parents, there was never a day when there was not at least 2 or 3 people who he'd never seen before in his life, sadhu types, who were taking lunch at his parents' place. So, and when those, generally they're like sadhu types, I mean, questionable in so many cases, but they look like sadhus. And every time Gomohan would ask them, he would bring little Abai out. This is my young son. Please bless him so that Shri will be pleased with him and will bless him. Now his mother, Rajani, was poor, and she was very nice, extremely nice actually, but a little more on the material side. She wanted him to go to London and become a lawyer, but Gomohan would not hear about it. He just wouldn't hear. So the mother didn't push it too much. And Gomohan had a professional mridanga teacher come to teach Abai mridanga. When Abai was small, so small he could barely get his hands to the 2 ends of the mridanga at the same time. But the teacher came and taught him. So he was a pet child. He had pet names, Moti, that we mentioned, Nandulal, Nandu, and Kocha. I don't know what that means. His grandmother called him Kachori Mukhi because of his fondness for kachoris. He would visit the kachori vendors and get kachoris from them. He would visit the neighbors and get kachoris from them. Yeah. One day, it's a well-known incident, one day he went with his father to the market, and there was a toys section, or some people selling toys, and there was a toy gun, a plastic gun, and Abai wanted it. His father said no, because it's a violent type of thing. But Abai threw a tantrum. He was rolling on the floor, screaming. So his father agreed. But then Abai saw there was a second gun. And so he went into another tantrum, and his father had to buy him both guns. His mother was very devoted to him. She would always pray that he would continue to live. When he went outside to pray with his friends, she would take some of her saliva on her finger and put it on his forehead. And she took a vow to eat with her left hand only until Abai asked her, "Why are you eating with your left hand?" She trained him to eat with his right hand, but she ate with her left hand. And that went on till he was like 5 or 6 years old. She was eating with her left hand. And then at that point, Abai Prabhupad, he asked her, "Why are you eating with your left hand? You always tell me to eat with my right hand." And she just didn't say anything. She just started eating with her right hand, right in mid-meal. And she did that. She had taken a vow to eat with her left hand until he asks her, because she felt that he will at least stay alive until he asks her by the power of her vow. Yeah. So once, this is interesting, once he got dysentery, which, there's one thing getting diarrhea, which often devotees get on their first visit or maybe first and second visits to India. But dysentery is something else. Yeah. Same style of thing, but sure, much more powerful. So he got dysentery, and she cured it by feeding him hot puris and fried brinjal with salt. Okay. When Abai lost his first baby tooth, on his mother's advice, he put it under his pillow at night, and by the morning time it had disappeared, and some money appeared in its place. And he left the money with his mother for safekeeping. But sometimes if they had a little fight, then he would tell her, "Give me my money back, I'm going to leave home." So then there was the incident of the Rath Yatra, famous incident, that he had heard of Rath Yatra, seen some pictures of Rath Yatra, and he had such a devotional mood. Abai Prabhupad, he wanted to do Rath Yatra. So they went out to see if they could find a chariot. And they found some little chariots, but they were too expensive. And Gomohan couldn't afford to buy one. And Abai was crying and crying. On the way home, one lady asked him, "Why are you crying?" And he explained to her. And she told him, "Oh, I have a rough cart at home. You can have it." So they went over and got it. It was 1 meter high and hadn't been used for years. So Gormohan repainted it, added a horse at the front. Oh no, Gormohan repaired it and added a horse at the front. Abai painted it. And then he had a Rath Yatra festival for 8 days. Yeah, all the different events they have over the whole Rath Yatra festival, including a return Rath Yatra. So at the age of 6, Abai asked his father for a deity. Said, "I want to worship deities." So his father bought Radha Krishna deities for him at the age of 6. And he worshipped them, he offered them food, and he offered them arati every day. In 1904, at the age of 8, he started school at the Matilal Seal Free School. And we sort of jump ahead a bit. At the age of 12, he was initiated by the family guru. At the age of 13, there were Hindu-Muslim riots. And Abai was coming back from home, and then he saw that there's riotings going on. And Prabhupada said, one Muslim, one Mohammedan, Prabhupada wouldn't call Muslims Muslims, he'd call them Mohammedans, which is more correct, because Muslim really means like a worshipper of God, whereas Mohammedan means a follower of Muhammad. So Prabhupada said, one Mohammedan, he wanted to kill me. He took his knife and actually ran after me, but I escaped somehow or other. I was saved. So as I came running before our gate, my parents got back their lives. Then, when he was 16, his mother died at the age of 46. And they'd had a very close relationship. So it affected him very deeply. But his father preached to him Bhagavad Gita, the soul is eternal, whatever happens, happens by Krishna's will, and Abai listened very carefully and understood. So 2nd chapter, college, marriage, and Gandhi's movement. So 1914 means Prabhupada is, what is he, 18? 18 or so, depending when in 1914, so 17 or 18. The First World War broke out, but Abai was not affected. In 1916, at what, the age of 19 or 20, he began college. Means it's like university, because he was going to get a Bachelor of Arts, I think, from them. So he began college at the Scottish Churches College, and the teachers were all priests in the Church of Scotland, because that was one of the main, and it is one of the main preaching strategies of the Christians and others in these kind of non-Western countries. They start schools, and the children go, and they influence the children, and they influence the parents. So the teachers were all priests from the Church of Scotland. Means they're probably Presbyterians. Very sober, morally upright. So interesting, Gormohan Dey, his father, didn't want him to become a full-time brahmachari. And because he didn't know where there was a qualified guru who could really take care of Abai. So therefore the idea was he's going to marry, and therefore he's going to have to earn a livelihood. So therefore he has to get a degree, get some qualification, and then he'll be able to get a good job and maintain a family. So Prabhupada says, in my first year, I studied English and Sanskrit. In my second year, Sanskrit and philosophy, then philosophy and economics. Prabhupada became a member of the English Society in his second year and would recite Keats, Shelley, and other poets to his classmates. I don't know if any of you studied Keats, people like that, very British poets. So as a member of the Sanskrit Society, they were so well trained and so much into it, that many people in the audience were crying, seeing the beauty of the drama. So now in the Scottish Churches College, Bible study was compulsory. The Bible Society had issued each student a beautifully bound Bible, and each morning everyone gathered for scripture reading, prayers, and hymns. There was strict racial segregation in the school. There were teachers there who were Indian, but the majority were the priests who were Scottish. They had separate lounges and facilities like that. And his economics professor would sometimes shout at his class, addressing them as representatives of the whole Indian nation. He would say, "You should never expect independence. You cannot rule. You can only work like asses. That's all." But Abai, Prabhupada at that point, going through the college, he was so busy with his studies, he wasn't able to continue with worship of his Radha Krishna deities. So he put them to sleep in a box. But on the whole, he wasn't interested in his school studies. Yeah. But after the first year in college, he had a dream of his deity, and the deity spoke to him in his dream. "Why have you put me away in this box? You should take me out and worship me again." So Abai felt sorry that he neglected his deity, and he resumed his worship of Radha and Krishna at home, despite all his assignments. In that school, Subhash Chandra Bose was 1 year ahead of him. So he knew Subhash Chandra Bose. Prabhupada said that, the person who drove the British out of India was not Gandhi, it was Subhash Chandra Bose. Yeah. So, right. And Subhash Chandra Bose was always talking about independence. And Abai heard this, and it appealed to him. But actually, Abai was more attracted at that stage to Gandhi, because Gandhi was more religious. He always had Bhagavad Gita with him. Anyway, then Gaur Mohan Day arranged for him to marry Radharani Dutt, who was from a Suvarna Vanik family. I think it's more or less the same caste. Yeah, must be the same caste. Yes, it was in his 3rd year in school. How old is he? Early 20s, I guess. Yeah. Actually, Prabhupada was not attracted to this Radharani Dutt. There was another girl who he was more attracted to. And he told his father that, if you don't mind, could we make that arrangement? But his father, who was the one who was actually making the arrangements, his father told him, no, if you're so attracted to this other girl, it will not be good. You should not be too attracted to your wife. So better to marry this other girl. Yes. So he accepted his father's wish. So he was quite attached to Gandhi's ideas. So at the end of his 4th year at college, when he should have graduated with I'm not sure what degree, but a bachelor of something, he just didn't show up. He just didn't show up to collect his diploma. Yeah, on the basis of his, attachment, whatever you'd call it, to the idea of Indian independence and not living according to the standards of the British. And his father, when he told his father, I don't want to accept my degree, his father said, that's all right. You don't have to accept it. He didn't object. So so now Prabhupada's married, but he was not happy because there was some incompatibility with his wife. So he decided he would like a second wife. And he approached, not divorce one and then marry another, but have 2. Because that sort of thing went on in those days in Hindu society. So his father told him, Prabhupada says, my dear boy, you are eager to take a second wife, but I would advise you not to. It is Krishna's grace that your present wife is not to your liking. Take it as a great fortune. If you do not become too attached to your wife and family, that will help you in your future advancement in spiritual life. So his father was a close friend of one sort of industrialist named Dr. Kartik Chandra Bose from Bose Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, they had big laboratory. They would make different pharmaceuticals, different drugs, soaps, and so on. But Abai, so he started working there. But Abai, in sympathy with Gandhi's movement, started wearing khadi to show that he was a supporter of Gandhi. Because it was not so cool to use khadi. It was more cool to use, like what most of you are wearing, machine-produced cloth. I'm wearing khadi. So, right. So that if one wore khadi in those days, one was making a statement that I am a follower of Gandhi. Chapter 3, a very nice, saintly person. So one of his relatives, Narendranath Malik, told Prabhupada, that there is one really nice sadhu who is doing programs here in Calcutta, not far from our house, from your house and his house, because he's one of the monarchs. He's one of that greater family. So Narendranath explained to Prabhupada that this sannyasi, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he's a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. It's some of my parents and my uncles and aunts have been to hear him, and they were extremely impressed. So I want you to come. I'm going to take you to meet him. But Abai said, no. He said, I know all these sadhus, I'm not going. Because he'd seen his father had entertained these saffron-wearing people every day for years. But he had seen that when they went out of the house, some of them smoked ganja, and they were just bogus, and he had understood that. Because he says, every day his father had entertained at least 3 or 4. Some of them were no more than beggars. But Gaur Mohan had been very liberal in allowing anyone who wore the saffron robes of a sannyasi to come. But Abai was really disappointed by them. So Narendranath physically dragged Abai. There's a scene on the road of this one pulling the other and the other resisting. No. It was quite a scene. But eventually Prabhupada sort of submitted and went. And this program was on the roof in what was a rented house at the time, rented by the Gaudiya Math, at number 1 Altadanga Road. And you'll be happy to know, devotees maybe know already, ISKCON has purchased that and really fixed it up really nicely. And up on the roof, because the program was on the roof. So they set that up very nicely, how it was, or even better than what it was. Then Prabhupada went to that program. Yes. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was there sitting, his back very straight. He appeared tall. He was slender. His arms were long. His complexion was fair and golden. He wore round bifocals with simple frames, round glasses. His nose was sharp. His forehead was broad. And his expression was very scholarly, yet not at all timid. The vertical markings of Vaishnav tilak on his forehead were familiar to Abai, as well as the simple sannyas robes that he was wearing. He had tulsi beads and tilak marks, because he didn't have a kurta on his throat, shoulders, upper arms. Yes, so like this. So they went up onto the roof, him and Naren, and immediately offered full dandavats in front of this sannyasi. So as they were rising, as they're getting up, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta immediately told them, "You are educated young men. Why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya's message throughout the whole world?" That was the core, foundational instruction that Prabhupada received for his whole life from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So Abai was shocked, but impressed. But still, his nationalistic feelings was still there. So he challenged Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Who will hear your Chaitanya's message? We're a dependent country. First, India must become independent. How can we spread Indian culture if we're under British rule? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied in a quiet, deep voice that Krishna consciousness did not have to wait for a change in Indian politics, nor was it dependent on who ruled. Krishna consciousness was so important, so exclusively important, that it could not wait. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, whether one power or another ruled was a temporary situation, but the eternal reality is Krishna consciousness, and the real self is the spirit soul. No man-made political system, therefore, can actually help humanity. This is the verdict of the Vedic scriptures and the line of spiritual masters. So now Abai can see this is not just another one of these questionable so-called sadhus. And even though initially he didn't agree, but the more he heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta speak that evening, the more he felt defeated. But he felt that the defeat was not a loss, but it was a great gain for him. So Prabhupada says, I was from a Vaishnava family, so I could appreciate what he was preaching. Of course he was speaking to everyone, but he found something in me, and I was convinced about his argument and mode of presentation. I was so much struck with wonder. I could understand. Here is the proper person who can give a real religious idea. I accepted him as my spiritual master immediately, not officially, but in my heart. I was thinking that I had met a very nice, saintly person. Yes, okay. So Prabhupada, on the spot, wanted to leave his family and join the mission full-time. But he couldn't. There was at least one child, there may have been two. So then he sort of, he's absorbed in his business, not his business, but working for Dr. Bose. But he's always remembering Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, constantly. But then in 1923, means he's 27 or so, he moved to Allahabad. Prayag, right?
Yes.
Now?
Yeah.
Prayag. Yeah. And got a small shop selling medicines and things from the Bose laboratories. It was called the Prayag Pharmacy. I believe the shop is still there. Maybe not with the same name. So he would travel frequently, selling. When he traveled by train, he would travel third class unreserved. I went on third class. You've been on third class unreserved, have you? I went on third class unreserved. Amazing. Amazing. Sure. Yeah. So many people forget sitting down, forget even standing up. We climbed into the luggage rack. I spent the night in the luggage rack. Yeah. So, okay. Yes. In 1925, he made his first visit to Vrindavan, just for a couple of days, and he loved it. He had a son, age 2, who when he was age 2, was hyperactive, and he loved kachoris. So one day, one of the uncles told that son, that boy, 2-year-old, sit still for 1 minute, I will time you, and I will give you a kachori. The boy did not get his kachori. Yeah. The same boy wanted to touch a fan, an electric fan, and Prabhupada's trying to stop him, but the boy keeps on, and Prabhupada stops him, and the boy keeps on. And so a friend who was there said, turn down the speed. And actually turn it off, but so it's still moving, and let him touch it. The boy never touched a fan again, even when he was asked, would you like to touch the fan? So then some Gaudiya monk devotees came to Allahabad, Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Swami, and some other devotees. And one time they came, so he met them, and he was really, really happy to meet them, because he hadn't seen Gaudiya devotees since, whatever year it was, 22, I think, it was 1922. He met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Hardly seen. And since being in Allahabad, 1923, had not seen. So he started getting involved with them, coming to programs, etc. One time he arranged a program in his own house. And he told his father was very old and invalid. He told his father, we're having a program downstairs with Gaudiya devotees, but his father couldn't hear properly. So he came down and saw these people in saffron, and he thought they were Mayavadis. So Prabhupada's father openly, quite loudly, made a critical remark about the sannyasis. And Prabhupada was shocked. Why does he say that? But then he understood. Then they started the class, and he understood. These are Vaishnavas. So right at the beginning, within the first so many minutes of the class beginning, Gomohan Day cried out, "Oh, they're Vaishnavas," and immediately fell down at their feet and said, I misunderstood you, sir. I thought you were sannyasis from another mission. I'm glad to meet you. So Prabhupada became really involved with the Gaudiya devotees there. But then his father passed away in 1930. They were very kind to me, so I thought, what are these people doing in this parikrama? Let me go. So I met them at Kosi. And then he walked with them to Sheshashai, which is some distance from Kosi, but not so far. So at Sheshashai, very famous incident happened. I imagine many of you have heard about it. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was to leave the next morning, leave the parikrama. But he was giving class that night. But there was some special darshan at the Sheshashai temple So one of the sannyasis got up, in front of I would say well over 1,000 devotees, and said, sure. But Prabhupada stayed, and he listened for hours. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave long classes. Yeah. One time he gave a class, not 24/7, but every day for like 3 hours a day on Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 1. 111, 3 months, every day for 3 hours. So, and Prabhupada said sometimes he couldn't understand the language, the concepts, but he still stayed and listened. So then a month later, Prabhupada found out Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was coming to Allahabad, where he was living. Gaudiya Math had now got land. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was going to lay the cornerstone for a temple. And there, Prabhupada heard that there was going to be an initiation. So the president, Atulananda, Prabhupada asked him, could I be initiated? And on the day of the initiation, it was the same day as the cornerstone laying, Atulananda introduced him to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, along with several other candidates for initiation. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta recognized him. He was visibly pleased to see him. And he said yes, exchanging looks with Abai. He likes to hear. He does not go away. I have marked him. I will accept him as my disciple. So these words, yes, he likes to hear the words of the spiritual master. And the glance, when Bhaktisiddhanta looked at him, he recognized Prabhupada. So these things remained with him. And Prabhupada decided he would continue pleasing his spiritual master by hearing well. So when he was initiated, he got first and second at the same time. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta left him with the same name, but added Aravinda. So he became Abai Charan Aravinda Das Adhikari. So now Prabhupada's inspired, really inspired. And he really wanted to increase preaching himself, and he wanted to involve his wife in at least, cooking for programs and associating with the ladies in the programs, but she wasn't interested. And Prabhupada really didn't appreciate that at all. So Prabhupada said, whenever I met my Guru Maharaj, he would always treat me very affectionately. Sometimes my godbrothers would criticize because I would talk a little freely with him, and they would quote this English saying that fools rush in where angels fear to tread. But I would think, fool? Well, maybe, but that's the way I am. My Guru Maharaj was always very, very affectionate to me. When I offered obeisances, he used to return, Dasosmi, I'm your servant. So then there was a famous incident with one elderly devotee who had bad hearing on the roof at Altadanga Road. As far as I know. That the elderly man who had bad hearing would ask Prabhupada every minute or two, what did he say? What did he say? And Prabhupada would tell him what he said. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did not appreciate. And he got angry. And he said to Srila Prabhupada, Babu, would you like to come and sit here? Would you like to speak in front of probably 100 people? It was very embarrassing for Prabhupada. He didn't reply. He just, But he remembered that. And Prabhupada told his disciples that. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had arranged that a few, like half a dozen, of his skinniest disciples would be there eating lunch when Subhas Chandra Bose came. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, look at these boys, will you? How can they help you in your fight for independence? Just let them take prasadam and chant Hare Krishna. So Subhas Chandra Bose, he just left. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, for your national propaganda, you require very strong men. But look, these people are very weak. You can see they're very skinny. So don't put your glance on them. Let them eat something and chant Hare Krishna. Prabhupada said, in this way he avoided him. So Prabhupada would regularly, whenever he got an opportunity, he would go to where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was and hear. But Prabhupada said he never put a philosophical inquiry before him. He preferred just to listen. So Prabhupada said, I never asked my spiritual master a question, except one, how shall I serve you? And, where are we? Prabhupada wrote on February 25th, 1935, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's 62nd Vyasa Puja day. Prabhupada wrote a poem, adoring, I'll just read a couple of few verses. Adore ye all the happy day, blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle, struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope is divine grace. Let's see. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast removed. This gives us a life, anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. The line of services drawn by you is pleasing and healthy, like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in new dress, miracle done, your divine grace. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta heard that, because he was present, he appreciated it very much. And he told the editors of The Harmonist, was a daily, sort of like a Krishna conscious journal. He said that whenever he writes something, he must publish it, meaning Prabhupada. Whenever he writes something, he must publish it. So, in November 1935, he went on Vrajmandal Parikrama again with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had just opened the big temple, the big Gaudiya temple at Bag Bazaar. But he was quite disturbed about how his disciples, particularly the most senior, they were fighting over who would stay in which room. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said to Prabhupada, Agun Jwalbe, there will be fire in the Gaudiya Mount. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said to him, Ama itcha chila kichu vai karan. I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books. Standing by Radha Kund and beholding a spiritual master, Abhay felt the words deeply into his own life. If you ever get money, print books. Then December 1936, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was in Puri. Prabhupada wrote to him, My dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. You have got many disciples and I am one of them, but they are doing direct service to you. Some of them are brahmacharis, some of them are sannyasis, but I'm a householder. I cannot serve you like that, directly. Sometimes I give monetary help, while I cannot give you direct service. Is there any particular service I can do? 2 weeks later, Prabhupada got a reply. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, I'm fully confident that you can explain in English our thoughts and arguments to the people who are not conversant with the languages of the other members. This will do much good to yourself as well as your audience. I have every hope that you can turn yourself into a very good English preacher if you serve the mission to inculcate the novel impression of Lord Chaitanya's teachings in the people in general, as well as philosophers and religionists. So a few days later, on January 1st, 1937, things which are particularly interesting. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you.